welcome to Dean's Chat, where we discuss all things podiatric medicine. My name is Dr. Jeffrey Jensen. I'm the Dean at the Arizona College of Podiatric Medicine and the host for the Dean's Chat podcast. Once again, I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Joanna Ritchie. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty darn good. How was your weekend with AO North America?
Oh, man, it was absolutely outstanding. It was our very first advanced course, and I'm really excited about our guest today because he was with us all weekend as we kind of blazed a new trail, and it was overwhelmingly a great success. So,
Well, fantastic. That's a great segue. Dr. George Tye Liu, welcome to Dean's Chat.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And Dr. Liu, we're fairly informal here on Dean's Chat. And if it's okay with you, let's go first names or nicknames, if you will. Tye, Joe, and Jeff.
Perfect.
awesome. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time today, Tye, to come talk with our audience a little bit about yourself and your career. Your CV is absolutely remarkable, and my experience in working with you has been you're just an absolute humble leader, and so I'm really excited to have the chance to kind of get to know a little bit more about your story. So Dr. Tye Liu did do his undergraduate degree with Trinity University in San Antonio, Texas, with a double major in biochemistry and biology. Went on to do his podiatric medical school with Temple University. And we'll stop right there because I'm really curious, what got you interested in podiatry from the beginning?
Yeah, so I was, as you said, I was a biochemistry and biology major, and I was heavy in sciences. My interest at the time was going into research. I was at UT Health Science Center in San Antonio in the Department of Immunology and performing research there. And there were some folks that also had some collaborative research programs with that department, and it was with Lawrence Harkless and Larry Lavery, and they had ran rounds one day, and they asked me if I was interested in attending. So I remember that was my first introduction into podiatric medicine and surgery, and I remember I shadowed 2 or 3 of their grand rounds, and it was intense. There were, the residents were prepared. There was a lot of sharing of knowledge. A lot of mentoring. I could tell it was a very challenging and intense environment, but it just drew me. I was interested in what they were doing, and I wanted to know more. So that's kind of how I got my start in the field of foot and ankle and podiatric medicine and surgery.
Wow, and that's really exciting because as we kind of go through all the different things that you've been involved with, now you get to have the opportunity to do similar type of grand rounds, and I'm excited to get there. But we'll next transition. You did your residency with UT Health Science Center in San Antonio, Texas, and then you also did 2 different fellowships. One was an international fellowship with AO Foundation in Dresden, Germany, and the other was another international fellowship opportunity with Vittorio Emanuele University Hospital in Catania, Italy. And I'd love to get kind of some more information and what your experiences were overseas with those fellowships.
Yeah, UT Health Science Center in San Antonio, my mentor was Dr. Lawrence Harkless. So he was a residency director, very influential in my career. He's now a lifetime friend and mentor, but he basically set the trajectory of pretty much who I am today and how I grew professionally. He taught me about process and consistency and the art of observation, listening to your patient, what he calls parking by the bedside, understanding who, what, where, and why patients are. It's similar to Sir William Osler, his famous saying, if you listen to your patient, they're telling you the diagnosis. And Dr. Harkless was very keen on listening to patients, understanding who they are and what type of symptoms they're having, and really diving into the mirroring their history with the pathophysiology of their disease. He always said that the nature of the pain will tell you the system, and I never forgot that. And once I understood that, that really helped me to understand the pathology within the host, and that every disease has a behavior, and every host has its reaction. he also taught me how to ask good questions. That's kind of what set my trajectory forward. After I graduated, towards my graduation, I was interested in furthering my education. AO was definitely in my sights. I knew that AO was the premier academic foundation for musculoskeletal surgery, understanding internal fixation and also bone healing principles. So I sought out to do an AO fellowship in Germany. I was matched with Dr. Hans Wipp in Dresden, Germany, and it was quite amazing. He was a very talented individual, a very keen observer as well. I actually learned more about physiology of bone and soft tissue healing and rehabilitation in addition to the surgery. So I remember one day we were a little bit light on surgery, and he asked me whether I wanted to go with Peter Holmes into his Achilles tendon rupture clinic. And I said, Achilles tendon rupture clinic. And we saw well over 60 patients with Achilles tendon ruptures, and the volume was incredible. And that was my first introduction to understanding physiology of tendon healing. And they had a specific criteria of treating Achilles tendon ruptures non-operatively. They had a criteria where they used an ultrasound to identify whether or not the tendon stumps opposed, and they opposed. Then they got placed into a variosteal shoe made by Adidas with a 3-centimeter heel lift, and it was touch toe bearing as tolerated. And they followed them. Throughout their course of healing. And if the tendon ends do not oppose, then they had a percutaneous Achilles tendon procedure. And that was the first time I saw either of that. And to me, coming out of just fresh out of training, I was like, there's no way that that's going to heal, you know. But understanding principles of biomechanical stimulation and how tenocytes are stimulated by biomechanical stimulant, just really opened my eyes in terms of understanding the normal physiology of tendon healing in that sense. So I think overall that's just one example. I learned more about non-operative treatment of acute injuries than surgery, but surgery was definitely voluminous. The next one was in Catania, Sicily. It was during that time. This was already 3 to 4 years into working, and the biggest area of growth was the use of external fixation in reconstruction. At the time, I was very adept at using external fixation for trauma, but the concept of using circular ring fixation for Charcot reconstructions, etc., was very new. So I wanted to learn more about external fixation for gradual, and acute deformity correction. So I trained with Roberto Barcelona in Catania, Sicily, and did my fellowship with him. So it was very interesting because I learned a lot more about modulating biomechanical elements of bone healing and rehabilitation as well, and dynamizing external fixation. And it's really opened my eyes in terms of my understanding of continued bone healing. So.
And what an incredible opportunity to take some of those things that are new and exciting and learn about them in ways that maybe weren't as familiar, and then be able to bring them back and use them in your own practice. And then also, as we'll hear, lots of different opportunities for teaching. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
This insatiable desire to learn and progress from an educational perspective is something we've seen with a lot of our guests that are leaders in the surgical space. Tye, what do you attribute that curiosity to? Were you like that when you were younger, just very studious or curious, or?
I just I was never satisfied with an answer. I always wanted to know why, and always found myself not necessarily distrusting of an answer that I'm given, but I always wanted to answer the question why. So that's basically what got me curious. So when I understand the reasons why, then that's I own the information. But when I take the information from someone else, I'm just trusting that what someone else is telling me is true. And that's that. And again, not that I distrust their information, but to me, I want to own the information, because if I own it, I can synthesize it, I can modulate it, and I can turn it into something interesting. And that's where research questions come from, and that's how innovation is derived. So I like innovation. I like discovery. That's just what drives my curiosity.
That's a
What?
beautiful segue. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, it is beautiful. I just wanted to follow on that a little bit. That was that had to be an aha moment when you were in the Achilles tendon rupture clinic, and they were put him in an Adidas shoe with the heel lift, and
Yes.
like you said, there's no way this is going to work. Um, we see that a lot in medicine. I mean, every once in a while, you look at something like, yeah, I don't think so, but then all of a sudden, it gets studied and it's proven out, and there's some scientific basis behind it. Um, Anything else that you've had in your career that was one of those, yeah, that's not going to play out, but it does.
Yeah, you know, I think that I think that the aha moments for me was understanding that I was an agent. I could be an agent for healing, or I can be an agent for impeding healing. So my favorite question when I lecture to folks is whether or not what percentage of the audience performs trauma, as or sees trauma and operates on trauma. And usually about a third to a half will raise their hand, and I say to them, "What if I told you that all of you are do trauma? You're all traumatologists, because every one of you performs surgery, uh, creates or induces trauma to your patients." So, my aha moment was understanding that we are traumatologists because we traumatize our patients. So whether or not you do a large extensile approach on a ankle fracture or whatnot, what you've done is taken a closed ankle fracture and just made it open. So everything that you want to know has already been described and published in the literature in trauma. Trauma is the biggest experiment. So if you want to know how the host responds to a surgeon, just look at the trauma literature. So, if you perform extensile stripping of deep soft tissues, and you strip the periosteum, you just created a Castillo 2 or 3. If so, that's kind of what I take away from it. The study in surgery is really studying the host response to what you do to it. So
Thank you. That's a great perspective.
aha moments.
I love it.
And
Thank you, Joe.
even just this weekend, as Dr. Liu was talking to the audience in one of his lectures, it was a beautiful recognition again of, what we're teaching you today is likely to change. Like some of the things that right now we say that we know, we want to continue to investigate them and disprove or further validate what we do know. And so it's a nice transition into the next big talking point. You recently got your master's in public health and biostatistics. Can you talk a little bit about, at this level of your career, what was the nidus for that and what sparked that curiosity?
Yeah, I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. Yeah, that was tough. But I think that I was always envious of other colleagues that can speak about data. We're knowledgeable about data and data analysis and interpretation of data. But I want to know about data science and how to analyze data, how to acquire data and interpret it, and how it relates into public health, the bigger picture of what we do. So I enrolled in the program, University of Nebraska Medical Center, College of Public Health. It was during the time towards the end of COVID, but I knew nobody was traveling at the time, so I was like, well, this is my opportunity. Now I have a little bit of downtime, and why don't I do what I've always wanted to do? Uh, but I think that mainly I just wanted to be able to understand data better myself instead of outsource it to someone else and have somebody explain it to me. But now that I've gone through the program, I better understand what statisticians are looking for in terms of data sets um, and but the bottom line it's about reducing uncertainty and understanding variables and confounders and things that affect your results. The most important thing that I learned is that there are a lot of great results, good results from bad studies.
Yeah.
And this has made me a little more skeptical and more critical about how I read literature and how I report it now. So we can always be fall quick sound bites in literature, and it can be quick propaganda, and we're not immune to it in the scientific world. So I think that being good stewards and being good students of study design and data acquisition, understanding biostatistics and what 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 are good um, what are good methods to analyze data is very important, and really understanding what it means. How do you translate that into clinical practice, and how is it going to make patients better?
And I think that's the stuff that is really exciting about the future, as well as more and more of the profession is really leaning into this idea of what is well conducted research and how do we do a better job reporting data and being a little more critical and maybe a little more attention to detail in the construct of studies. And certainly it's being kind of emphasized more and more at the level that Jeff and I are working as well. And some of these students, they are so sharp and they know so much with some of the experiences they've had in their undergraduate research. And so again, I'm really excited about the potential of certainly this weekend talking with Hiro as well, Shibuya, the editor of JFAS. AI is going to revolutionize how we look at research and in beneficial ways and good ways. But at the end of the day, as a clinician, we still need to know how to ask the right questions so that you don't manipulate data, but we can really do the best that we can to ask the right questions. As you've kind of gone through your career, what have been, you've talked about some of the aha moments that you've had where little sparks of curiosity, but how does that start? Like, how do you translate that into, you've had lots of different studies that you've published in peer-reviewed journals. How does that process kind of unfold for you?
Yeah, I think that, number one is, do our recommendations make sense for treatment? Number two, are we actually treating what we're seeing? It's really a process of validating the diagnosis of what we see. I always feel bad. I remember I always feel challenged and a little unsettled when I institute a treatment or recommend surgery to a patient, and I am not certain if I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That never sat well with me, and that never sat well with me when I was in training at any level, and I always saw small elements of that. So, to me, that level of uncertainty really was unsettling to me. So, I would always ask questions. I always ask questions about, do we have a good diagnosis, and does this diagnosis make sense? Because to me, there's no such thing as a treatment if you don't have a diagnosis. It's just a procedure. And that's the difference. We have to get to the root cause. We have to understand the disease, the pathology, have to understand its natural history, understand its behavior. And then once we are good students of that, then we can dive into, what are the treatments that have been proposed and are effective. But but I think that's really what kind of spawned my interest in research is I always want to be certain about what I'm doing and making sure that it's the best I can do for a patient. But if I don't have a good diagnosis, then there's no treatment for me. I don't recommend anything. I tell the patient, like, well, it's like, we got to find out why you're having pain. There has to be a pain generator, and we have to, number one, identify the anatomy that hurts, and then test it, and verify that it is the true anatomy that hurts, and figure out why you're hurting. So that's half the battle, and then we can recommend a treatment for you. So I convince patients that a batting average is based upon how they do. So their outcomes are on my reputation. So I want to ensure that I get it right the first time. So that's I think that that in short is, well, not short. It's a long answer, but that's probably why I'm a little more cautious about when I treat patients, is trying to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting because it validates kind of the educational process and what we're trying to teach our students, trying to get them to understand the concept of developing a differential diagnosis and work their way through to a final diagnosis. And it's so funny, we all remember going through interviews and things, and when under stress, the students they just shoot from the hip sometimes. They don't work the patient up the way it should be worked up. So I thought that was a great discussion. Thank you, Tye.
Yeah, I think that overall, what really gets me sometimes is, we have become, somewhat procedural, and not just our profession. I think this is just for any trade type profession, and I want to say trade, that we're a trade profession, but any hands-on surgical profession, tends to, and we see it in other disciplines, other than podiatric medicine and surgery, is that we tend to be very procedural, and we tend to believe that procedures are what helps patients, but only if you have a diagnosis.
Yeah.
So if something doesn't work correctly, or if a fusion doesn't work correctly, then it's always about thinking about, okay, let me think about in my mental Rolodex about, other things that I've seen. Maybe it didn't work with screws, so maybe I can use a nail. If the nail doesn't work, maybe I can use an X-Fix. But you have to have a process. You have to have a process of understanding, number one, why did it fail? And it's like working up a non-union, for example. Is it because of is it a problem in biomechanics, or is it a problem in biology? And then just kind of work your way through that. And I think that's what the beauty of AO and being involved with that education process is that it's a way of systemizing the understanding of the physiology of bone healing, and then and problem solving when you have pathology.
And I love that because it speaks also to some of the things you learned from your mentor, Dr. Harkless, and this idea of consistency and,
Right.
working through that differential diagnosis. And the more we can be consistent or maybe systematic in our approaches to things, it helps you not just jump to a conclusion that maybe is inaccurate. To your point, like, what is the why? And that can be why this device, why this procedure, why this pain generator, right? Like, there's so many ways to unpack that puzzle. And so I think that that's such a really profound kind of circle conclusion from you. And it's just so neat to hear you talk about different ways that you've experienced these things in your life, and how even to this day you're continuing to use those same systems to continue to push yourself to get better and move forward. And I just think that that's really exceptional. And you've clearly dedicated a large portion of your life to this profession. You've been a huge leader you're currently the president of the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, which we're going to get to certainly. But even just in all of the different experiences you've had in teaching in the profession, you've been a big prominent member in the Texas Podiatric Medical Association, the UT Health Science Center. You got the Outstanding Clinician Award, Robert Buchholz Teaching Award, Gerard Yu Teaching Award, all of these at different intervals throughout your career. You've gotten the Young Practitioner Year of the Award, Distinguished Service Award for recognition of exemplary commitment and distinguished service to the podiatric medical profession at both the state and national level. And again, as I was going through your CV, some of these things, and I've only gotten to know you for a short period of time, but they just ring true to the kind of dedication that you've had to the profession. What is it about teaching that you enjoy so much that it keeps bringing you back to the opportunities?
Yeah, I think that I love teaching, and that's the reason why I'm here. I was in private practice in a big group in Austin, and making good money, and we were perfectly involved with a residency training program, and I really enjoyed it. I gave myself 5 years, a 5-year time period when I would be looking for another job, primarily academics. I wanted to be able to get my own experience and teach from my own experience, and I wanted that to be my foundation. But I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I enjoy it. I'm passionate about it, and I love seeing the aha moments, providing a way for students and also residents and fellows kind of connect the dots. Learning about the human host is like learning organic chemistry. Once you figure out the formula, then you can figure out most of the answers. But I like making things make sense and providing a pathway of for learners to understand knowledge acquisition. How do you get good knowledge? How do you develop good judgment and discernment and make good clinical decisions for patients? And to have some level of curiosity about why and be able to answer those questions yourself. UT Southwestern Medical Center, I've had enormous opportunities. I've helped to train medical students. We've had radiology residents in our conferences, PM&R, family practice, internal medicine, and of course I'm in the Department of Orthopedic Surgery, so I've trained orthopedic residents for probably about 15 years now. And what I've learned that there's significant value of integration and interdisciplinary education. There's a lot we can learn from each other. And the bottom line is there's more that unites us than separates us, because our common goal is patient care and patient outcomes. And in the end, as long as patients are doing well, then you're doing something right. So yeah, that's kind of my motivation.
I love that. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
I was kind of taken in all of those experiences, all those training opportunities, your AO opportunities. I'm just going to ask you a wild question. What's the next frontier in bone healing? I mean, 20 years from now, are we still going to be putting frames on? I mean, what in your mind could be like a transformational opportunity for our profession to advance orthopedic surgery or podiatric surgery?
Yeah, I think that we're in a very unique position, and I mean there is a lot that we provide in terms of public health that we don't give ourselves credit for. I mean, we keep America walking, and that is super and incredibly important. When you look at public health space, early weight bearing, especially with geriatric patients and elderly, and also immediately after fracture care and whatnot. I mean, these are things that are beneficial for overall recovery and rehabilitation, especially with elderly population. There's decreased morbidity, mortality. With making sure that elderly weight bearing Um, we have a lot of work to do in fall prevention as well. I mean, these are things that are of interest in the public health sector that are, are significant, topics that cost the healthcare system a lot of money, and also the things that impede health-related quality of life, for elderly Americans. So I think that there are a lot of different areas that we can intervene. Of course, the other areas are diabetic foot. I mean, it's an epidemic, and it's something that we do probably the best, than any other profession put together. These are public health problems, and these are areas that we can definitely intervene and continue to demonstrate excellence.
Could you envision a day when patients wouldn't have loss of feeling, right? Can you imagine if our patients with diabetes would have normal sensation? I mean, really wild things like that from a public health perspective.
Right.
It would be wild. All right, thank you.
So if we can kind of take some of that innovation, and you talked about you love innovation, teaching, you've been involved with lots of different leadership. I'd love to transition into the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons. You've been on the board of directors since 2017. Even previous to that, you had been involved at multiple different committee levels and certainly as a member. Can you talk a little bit about what started to maybe stimulate or inspire you to transition from being on the teaching side and moving more into the leadership aspects?
Well, I don't want to say leadership kind of happened to me by happenstance, but I guess I was at the right place at the right time. And, I never, it's interesting because I never really aspired to be a leader. I just wanted to do the best job I could at whatever task that I was provided. And there's an old saying that if you volunteer and you do a good job, you will always be gainfully employed. So I learned that, and I knew that when I had an opportunity, I never want to let anybody down. So I worked very diligently and consistently, and I wanted to not just do the job, I wanted to do an excellent, exemplary job. And that just led to one thing led to another. Another opportunity would arise. So it was never me aspiring to be president of any organization. But when I was asked to do it, I'm honored, most truly honored and humbled by the opportunity to be able to lead. But for me, it's Harkless would always tell us that you always have to be involved. You can't just sit on the sidelines and expect something to happen when you're not involved. So he would always say that Louis Bogey told him was that that service is the price you pay for the space you occupy, and that sat with me. And I was never interested in politics, and I was never interested in governance. But I can tell you that those areas are important, and it's not as something that you gravitate towards or whether you like or not. It's a fact of life. You have to be involved in it. So whether it's and I tell folks that being a leader is not necessarily being at the helm of everything, of a committee or an organization or whatnot. The leadership is about doing what you need to do to get things taken care of, especially for your patients. And whether it's serving on your credentialing committee, or your quality assurance committee at your local hospital, that always brings value because people know who you are and put a face to a name. And also now you are the author of your destiny. But if you're not involved, you can't complain about where you are now. So, but yeah, you don't have to sit at the top in order to be a leader.
Absolutely. And I think your point of, sometimes doing what is right and what is maybe expected is just as important as doing maybe what you quote unquote want to do. I had a mentor at one point use some kind of language, and I think it was a Churchill quote, something to that effect of like, it's not always about showing up and doing what is right. It's about doing what is expected, or maybe the opposite, not about doing what's expected, but doing what is right. And I can imagine it that there are times that there's a lot of competing interests for your time. And so, choosing which roles you will play, and to your point, how do I want this narrative of my life to go, and which of these am I going to say yes to, and whether it's, again, an intentional thread or whether it's things that start to kind of by happenstance lead you in one direction. As we're getting ready for the annual scientific conference that's going to be coming up in our backyard here in March, can you talk a little bit? You've been involved with the ASC in the past. You were a chairman of that committee and putting the course together, not course, the conference together. Can you talk a little bit about how much work goes into something like that?
Oh, yes, it's immense. I remember I served a chair. In fact, when I was chair of the ASC, it was in Phoenix. So it's ironic that I'll be a president at the time when we go back to Phoenix.
I remember that one, that 2016.
Yes, yes, and I remember it well. And it is, I think the folks on the annual scientific conference committee, they are an incredible group of individuals with a strong vision of wanting to share scientific knowledge, education, skills. They want to advance the profession, and they listen very intently to the membership and what they need, so they do a wonderful job putting together this ASC, and it's always an amazing event. There's always significant engagement with education, learning, and skills. But ACFAS has always been in the forefront of elevating the profession. And even though we as an organization are proud educators, the bottom line is that we want to elevate the entire profession, because that's our home, that's our family. We also have to recognize that these standards are expected of us too as well. Being board certified, having some standardization of our education, and continuing medical education as well, because with our advancement into different arenas of surgical care, and also our perspective into public health and quality assurance and quality initiatives, we have to have some standards where we are maintaining ourselves, with education and board certification, and so forth. But no, the ASC is a wonderful. It's a crown jewel of education and research of the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons. It's grown every single year. It's always there's a significant air of excitement, with the meeting, because there's always something new to learn. It's essentially the central hub of where we share information and we have engagement, and information exchange. This year, we have about 30 international experts and MD colleagues that will be joining us, and I think that this cross hybridization, if you will, kind of enriches our interactions and gives us avenues of to have a certain level of engagement, that we're not kind of in this endeavor alone, and there's opportunities to have meaningful conversations and exchanges to improve patient care, because that's the bottom line. We want to do the best we can, delivering excellent patient care.
I love that, and I think it again speaks back to something that you had referenced earlier in our discussion. This idea of working intercollegiately and interprofessionally. there's so much we can learn from each other. And at the end of the day, again, working as a team for the patient has clearly been delineated to give the best results. And so I think it's absolutely wonderful how ACFAS has really taken that initiative to heart and continually over the last couple of years expanding the program. And a little birdie may have said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons, ASC, is now one of the largest foot and ankle surgical conferences, certainly in the United States, but possibly even worldwide. Is that?
I'd say that's quite accurate. Last year in Tampa, we had about, I believe, 2,200 attendees. That's the attendees paid registrants alone, not including exhibitors and everybody else who showed up to the meeting. But it was an incredible meeting. Yeah. And when you go to these meetings, it just makes you proud of what our profession has done. It's hard to believe that in 1942, we were basically a fledgling organization. In 1911, we were just the beginnings, of fledgling practitioners in chiropody, right? But it's interesting where we began and where we are now, and I think that our predecessors, would be just incredibly amazed about the foundation they created for us and where we are now.
What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Oh, I agree. I'm having flashbacks to the Earl Caplins of the day and Gerard Yu and all the great leaders that have helped bring us to this point in time. I can't help but think of that old adage, leaders do the right thing and managers do things right. If you think about it, ACFAS is that leader. They are that manager. They're everything that helps push our profession forward. And Tye, thanks for taking the helm for a year. I did have a question. What's next for you?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I want to, there's a lot of research projects that I want to complete. There's a lot of questions I want to answer. But for now, I think that one of the biggest projects that we're working on through American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons is that our registry. This has been an endeavor that we've been working on for multiple years and actively for the past 2 years. A registry is important. We talked about quality assurance and patient safety a long time, and I think that it's not an exciting topic for any profession, but we know that it's coming, and we know that it's here. And quality has been talked about in the government for a long time, since the 1990s, and it's coming to a head that insurance carriers and government will be expecting and requiring public reporting of patient-reported outcomes. So we wanted to create a registry, for as a quality initiative, patient safety, and also a mechanism for research. So we wanted to have a way of understanding our benchmark, and also understanding how we can improve our level of evidence in regards to our consensus statements and evidence-based recommendations, because we want to be the forefront of leading the standard. We don't want to be just following the standard. We want to be authoring the standard of care. So this has been a labor of love for the college for the past 2 years, creation of our own surgical registry, and 12 other surgical specialties have one, and we don't. And so I think that this is mission priority for us. So we put in a lot of time and effort and monetary investment into this, and it's our statement of commitment to patient safety and quality assurance, validating our expertise through patient outcomes. So I think this is our next this is our next milestone that we want to achieve, and we're hoping to stimulate interest within our not only our own membership, but within our profession as well, because the quality movement is here, and I don't think that people are aware of it, and what the impact may be, because the federal government one day will be requiring quality or patient-reported outcomes reporting, as a model for reimbursement. So if you're not reporting patient-reported outcomes, you're not going to be paid as much as the other person who is. So I think that the registry, the registry is a mechanism of subscribers being able to do that, and I think that it's going to impact the users in more ways than just one. It's not just going to be a quality assurance tool or quality initiative tool. It's going to be patient-reported outcomes reporting as well. So, and the bottom line is, our patient outcomes are our reputation, and we have to stand by that. And we have to be, if we're committed to being excellent, we need to be committed proving it. So,
Yes.
Well said.
Yeah. It's almost like I do have one other question. Otherwise, that's like a perfect place to end. But I guess maybe there's two more questions that I have, and then Jeff, if you have any others. But what do you see for the future of ACFAS? You talked a little bit about the registry, which is definitely obviously a big part of it. But what are some other things that you see as the future for ACFAS?
well, it's an exciting time, is what I can say. We are we're moving in a lot of different directions. Research is one of our primary initiatives. Advocacy, of our members is another initiative. The registry, of course, is our biggest one at this point. But we have a lot of opportunity for integration, collaboration with other organizations, internationally and also domestically. I think the opportunities are rich to talk about having collaborative efforts into different projects and things that we want to do within whether it's the research realm, the education realm, and also the public health realm too. I think that what we as a profession and others in our profession realize is that we can't afford to operate in our own silos and believe that we're our own centers of excellence. We have to band together in a certain way, because we're stronger together than we are apart. And also our impact as a profession, we're no longer judged by individual impact. So we can't say like I do the best job. It's our impact as a whole. I think that there are emerging opportunities to partner and also collaborate with other organizations in different areas that would achieve these goals. So I think it's going to be an exciting chapter, for the college. And but we're always ensuring that what we do is the best for our patients, the best for our members, and the best for our profession.
That's excellent. And, we've already been seeing some evidence of that in terms of support. I mean, the collaborative effort between the American College of Foot and Ankle Surgeons and the AO, just as one simple example, and how important that combined effort really was to achieve this goal. And really, again, the responses that we've had from the participants. I mean, I can't imagine a more successful relationship right now. And I'm really excited to see other opportunities, as you said, that will be coming in the future, and just watching the profession continue to improve, not improve, we're wonderful right now, but continue to just become more collaborative. Maybe that's the right way to say it. Jeff, your thoughts?
No, It's been a phenomenal discussion, Tye. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us. Joe, you said you had two questions.
So
Did
my
you-
last one is what is something that's non-podiatry related? This was one of the discussions we had at the AO dinner table. We were quite loud, I heard, that you weren't a part of. So what's something that you do that you're maybe a little better than a novice, but not nearly expert or very good, but you do it for the love of it? What's something that's your hobby or interest of some kind?
Yeah, that's well, I love travel.
Okay.
I am a foodie. I enjoy trying different things. I love travel. I love learning about different cultures. That's always been a hobby of mine. Um, I love biblical studies. I think I find it quite interesting. It's kind of one of those things that uh, it's an interesting dynamic because I don't take anybody's word for it. I have to research it for myself,
Yeah.
and I'm very evidentiary about what I understand about the Bible and things of that nature. But the more and more I dive into it, the evidence really proves itself to be true. So I don't want to call myself an apologetic, but to me, to me, it's about evidence and discovery, and I think that's something I do on the side. I've been asked to teach a Bible study at our church, and I found that to be a very interesting avenue because I'm not I'm not a theologian or whatnot. So if I'm going to teach it, I really have to know my stuff. So but anyway, I find that kind of a little interesting a turn in my journey, I guess, at this point. So um,
That's
so
fabulous.
that's something what I do now.
Yeah.
I don't say I'm great at it, but I'm learning. So
For the love.
There's no shortage of information and books, and what a great topic to discuss more at a later time for sure. I love it. Um, Thank you again, Tye, so much for joining us. Joe, any last words on your end?
No, I think, well, again, it's like the deeper and deeper we get in these discussions, there is a whole slew of stuff we didn't even get a chance to touch on from your career, Dr. Liu. But thank you so much again for your dedication to the profession, how much you've given of yourself, and just in the quality and the improvement and where we're going in the future. I'm really excited, and I do directly attribute a lot of that to some of your leadership that you've had over not just the immediate last year, but even back in the 2016 days when you were putting certain people in certain roles. And I just appreciate your thoughtfulness and attention to detail that you carry. So on behalf of my experience and those around me, thank you for the work that you do.
And to you both as well, Jeff and Joe. I mean, this podcast is amazing. You guys are amazing co-hosts, and we appreciate everything you guys are doing for our profession. You guys make us proud, and so we appreciate you immensely.
Thanks, Tye. That's very nice to say. Thank you. Well, to all of our listeners out there, thank you. Of course, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating. And if you're watching on YouTube, please become a subscriber. Tye, one of our traditions on Dean's Chat is we send a Dean's Chat cup to all of our guests, so you can be expecting that in the mail. It can serve you well morning or night, depending upon your beverage of choice.
I greatly appreciate that. Looking forward to receiving it.
Sounds good. Well, thanks again. And till next week, everybody, cheers.